And welcome back to another episode of the Choose954 podcast, episode 87, with our friend Emmy, aka the Mindful OT behind Yo.T Holistic Wellness, who's our upcoming AAF CreativeZen speaker. If you didn't know what any of that is, we're going to tell you. But if you didn't know about Choose954, myself, Evan Snow, and my business partner, Mr. Andrew Martineau, started a social movement to cultivate culture and community here in my native Broward County in an effort to keep people in know with all the great things that are going on, primarily within the arts, culture, and now yoga space, and make this a better place to live and not just a better place to vacation because we live here. But the point of the podcast is to connect you with interesting people like her that do important things in the community. She does quite a few important things in the community, which we're excited and proud to share with you. So without much further ado, Emmy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself at a high level here?
All right, so hi everyone. It's really awesome to be here. Evan, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this, of what you're offering for the community. It really is an honor to be a part of this. My name is Emmy, also known as the Mindful OT, and I am the owner and creator of Yo.T Holistic Wellness, where we provide these multi-sensory experiences. Oops, sorry about that. Evan, are you still there?
I am still there.
Okay, sorry. Let me just put this on silent. Do not disturb.
Good call.
I
We'll review that one. All right.
Okay, should I start all over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you can tell us about yourself at a high level.
So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this, a part of your community. And it's really awesome to see people doing things like this out in the community, bringing people together and just also inspiring people through conversations. My name is Emmy. I'm the owner and creator of Yo.T Holistic Wellness. And what we do is we provide these multi-sensory experiences out in the community to promote an overall sense of well-being. And we do this through a variety of offerings and modalities, from mindfulness and the meditation, sound healing, energy healing, yoga, breath work, and also collaborating with different practitioners to really provide you with the ultimate experience. We have a variety of offerings, from zero cost offerings where you don't pay anything, to just higher ticketed items. But something that's really important to me is to be able to provide these experiences and make it affordable and reasonable and accessible.
Amen. And that's one of the reasons why I and everybody else love you. And I've participated in some of these experiences that we'll get to in a little bit. But before we got there, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started on this journey in life here?
So, I can take you back all the way to sixth grade, and that's kind of like where anxiety started to show its face for me in my life. And I could honestly say that it was something that was very debilitating, and I'll go more into detail about that when we have our talk on the 14th at NSU. But that was like where I started to experience like some panic attacks, and I had no idea that that's what I was going through. And so I had moments of that in sixth grade, seventh grade, kind of like faded, and then it really showed its face back in graduate school, when I was in my master's program, Occupational Therapy, over at Nova. And again, it was just very debilitating. And at the time, I was just like, I feel like throughout my entire life, I've always had something within me to seek resources, to seek help. And I had landed in so many therapists' offices, like clinical psychologists, and just trying to find something that would support me. But what was really upsetting to me is that I kept getting, like, immediately, it was just like, here's a prescription, here's a prescription. And personally, I didn't want to go that route. since I was really young, I've always had a journal. So I would journal, I would write things down, and I had some awareness. I had awareness, and eventually I ended up in the hands of an incredible clinical psychologist here in Fort Lauderdale, Dr. Marla Reese, who was also the owner and creator of Zen Mindspace. And she was the first therapist to tell me, like, Emmy, you are going to try everything and anything before you go, you try medication. So that's really where it started for me. She had introduced me to acupuncture, and before that, I had no idea what acupuncture was, but it was, if you don't know what acupuncture is, it's Chinese medicine. They've been using it for so many years, working with meridians and working with the energy within us. So I started with acupuncture, and then she suggested yoga. And so what's interesting is that my first yoga experience was actually when I was in graduate school, and it was part of one of our courses. It was activity analysis, and we were supposed to like deconstruct this 1 hour class that for me at the time felt like complete torture. Because it was like holding this pose for 5 minutes. And like, at the time I was like, had severe anxiety, was having, like this, the monkey mind that we call in yoga, where like your mind just does not stop. And I was very much into like kickboxing and running and spinning. So for me to be able to hold a pose and just sit with myself for 5 minutes it was too much. It was too much. I did not like it at all. And so I kind of like shied up, like, that's just not, yoga's not for me. But yet I kept hearing like, try it out. And I'm so happy that I tried it out again. And I ended up finding my teacher, Alina Floor, who now is like, I'm very good friends with. And I remember that first time that I was on my yoga mat in Shavasana, like towards the end of a yoga class, just laying there with tears in my eyes and just feeling like, oh my God, I belong here. Like, this is what I need to do. And I remember seeing like a vision, like having this vision so vividly of me, like barefoot with big pants and, nose ring. At the time I didn't have a nose ring. And my hair was big and curly and just like teaching yoga. And I'm like, this can't be. I'm an occupational therapist. I'm like, into debt up to my eyeballs with graduate school. But I had this vision of me being a yoga teacher. And that was my second yoga class. But I just remember feeling so moved and so touched and connected. I lived in my head for so many years. With all these self-limiting beliefs and just like really heavy thoughts. And for the first time, I had experienced this shift within, let's say the class was, I don't know whether it was 75 minutes or 90 minutes, but I was able to like shift my attention to really my body, and it felt like home. And so that's really where my journey started with yoga. 2012 was when I started, like, I really dove into my practice, and I was just practicing on a regular basis. Yoga became therapy to me. It was so therapeutic. I was able to, I learned so much about myself on my mat. And that is why I do what I do. That's why I ended up becoming a yoga teacher, because, not to say that medicine can be so helpful. Personally, for me at the time, I didn't want to go that route. And I came across this tool that's been used for so many years. And it's so powerful. Like, it's not just, you have some people that might join a yoga class and they're like, I just want to get into a tripod. I want to do, whatever fun, crazy pose it is, but it really goes beyond the mat. I remember learning so much about myself. Like, for an example, in graduate school, like I could not work. I don't know how some people worked. I worked a total of 6 hours. I worked at a club, at Hard Rock. And so when you're in that environment, what do you do? Like, there's dancing, there's partying, there's drinking. And that was just like part of that was just part of the job. And I remember, like, as I started my yoga practice, all of a sudden, like, I didn't want to drink it. I just realized, like, this just doesn't, I don't like the hangover. I don't want to feel like crap the next
Funny
day.
how it has that effect on people.
Yeah. And another thing that was just like, one thing that really stood out was, I remember being in one of my classes, and Evan, I had like really bad anxiety, like to the point where I would intentionally sit myself next to the door if in case I had a panic attack. I didn't want anybody to see me. Like, it was that um debilitating, and it was just a really hard time for me. And I remember, like, public speaking was really hard. That was one thing that I hated so much. Like, just getting up there and having a presentation and talking about whatever the subject was. That was really hard. And I remember coming to one of my classes and I'm standing up there and I'm just like, like, I went through this entire presentation and just thinking, like, towards the end, I realized, oh my God, how did I get through that presentation? And I remember, like, I started my presentation grounding into my breath. And that alone to me was just like, this is so powerful.
And look at her now.
Look at me now. Yeah. And the fact that I was able to get through that, like, get through a presentation and not have like this severe debilitating anxiety. And I remember, there were so many students. I don't know if you remember, like, I don't know if you took a communications course, but there were some students that were like, you can't see them because you're far, but it's like, are they crying because their voice is cracking? Like, it's an experience to get up there and speak in front of a crowd of like 62 to 100 students. So that was like a big win for me, like recognizing, like, wow, I've come a long way, and it's just through this simple practice of yoga that really has a tremendous impact. And so, yeah, that's why I do what I do. It's the yoga. And then I came across this sound healing. I will say, and I'm fully transparent, like, I'm not a sound healer. I'm not certified in sound healing. I did not take a sound healing course, but I started to play with the bowls because it supported me in my meditative practice. Like, I really enjoyed listening to the instruments and how soothing and calming it can be. And so slowly I just started sharing my bowl. I would bring my bowl to my yoga class, and like the students really enjoyed that. So I would just continue to do that. I started getting more instruments for me, and my students like that. So, like, why not share? So at the end of the day, I've been like, I'm just a normal human being, I'm just a normal human being. And I'm just sharing the tools that have had such an incredible impact in my life. Let's say 15 years ago, I was a totally different person. I wouldn't be able to do this. I don't think I could have done this.
But you're doing it. And
I'm doing it. And you know what? Like, and just because I'm doing it doesn't mean that, like, I don't have these fears anymore. Just because I'm doing this doesn't mean like I don't get anxious. Like, I'm human. I still get anxious. Like, even before this talk, it's like, oh, all right, we have to do this podcast. But you know what? Like, getting outside of your comfort zone, stretching yourself, and just like taking those leaps when it's uncomfortable, that's where you grow. And so I'm grateful for you for like bringing me on here. And I've got so many friends, family that I'm so grateful for, that inspire me in big ways, that push me to grow and expand. And sometimes it can be comfortable to just hang out in the safety zone, but it's also so transformative to just take those leaps and to do things that are uncomfortable. And they're uncomfortable, but you know what? You grow so much from it.
Amen. And I think there's a lot of relatability in your story, and a lot of people have gone through anxiety, panic attacks, not knowing which way to go, not knowing which therapy or treatment or next step they should take. and I appreciate you sharing transparently. And if you weren't aware what AAF CreativeZen is, Emmy will be sharing her full story very transparently Friday, April the 14th, uh, serendipitously at the Cotilla Gallery inside the Alvin Sherman Library on the campus of Nova Southeastern University on the second floor as part of our monthly breakfast lecture series, our mini TED Talk that we host for free every second Friday morning for our community to connect, engage, and inspire each other one Friday morning a month, and really help show that everybody is probably more similar and alike than they are different. And we're all on our journey. We're all, trying to take that next step and progress in life. And thankfully, you found some tools and resources that have been able to help not only yourself, but have been able to help you in your work and in your purpose and in your community. And if you would be so kind to share for those that might not know what an occupational therapist is, in summary, what does an occupational therapist do?
Oh, thanks so much.
The
So
Lord's work.
what?
The Lord's work.
We support our clients in living a fulfilled life. And that is through like helping them, supporting them, and developing the skills to engage in their day-to-day occupations. So that being said, like I'll give you different examples because occupational therapists, you can find us everywhere and anywhere, working in every setting, any setting. I worked in inpatient rehab, acute care rehab, and that's where, like, let's say that you have a patient who had a stroke. It's regaining those skills, like motor skills, how they're able to reach for something, or maybe it's learning a different way, like adapting the ways that they were doing something, so that they can perform their daily occupations. Typically in the hospital setting, it's activities of daily living, so like feeding, bathing themselves, eating, all these things, going to the restroom, walking so that you can, get to places, or maybe that's like how to use your wheelchair. Now I've also transitioned. So I went from the hospital setting. Right now I'm also a pediatric occupational therapist. So now what is the occupation of a child? To be a child, to sit down, to learn, to socialize, to feed themselves when they're in the cafeteria. So we're working on all those skills. So working on sensory processing, emotional regulation, how to control their emotions. I do like to bring my instruments once in a while. The kids love the instruments. We do bring yoga as well into the school setting, just to help, not just with like, the gross motor and the coordination, but body awareness. And again, going back to like having that awareness and that introspection of like what's going on within my body. Basically, it's just activities of daily living, instrumental activities of daily living, like supporting our clients in living their life, whether it's modifying their environment, regaining skills, or preventing illnesses and disease. So I like to blend that. That's why I'm called the mindful OT. I blend that with all these complementary alternative modalities that I love and I feel so passionate about, because occupational therapy actually started in mental health. That's where it started. When the veterans were coming back from the war, they wanted to institutionalize them, and OTs were like, no, we need to engage them. So what is engaging to our clients, and how do we use that as an occupation so that we can get our veterans back out in the community? So that's where OT started.
I did not know that, and I appreciate you sharing that with me. And I have all the much more respect for you than I already had, because it really is valuable, invaluable work that you do, especially with the kids. And I know that you've certainly gone through a lot of schooling, certainly have gone through a lot of training. You've been very fortunate to work with some beautiful human beings and teachers that you mentioned, and some of which you haven't, but I'm sure we'll get to. What would you say is one of the best pieces of advice that you've ever received?
So one of our dear friends and mentors, Chloe, also known as the Gemini Rising, recently shared something with me, and she reminded me that my mess is my message. And that's something I don't remember. I feel like I read that, but I just remember, I'm just going to quote Chloe on that. I don't know who's the originator of that, but to me, that was such an important message of just like, when I doubt what I'm doing, I take a look back at like to see how much I've grown. How do I not share this? How do I not share it? So that is something that's really stuck with me since she shared that with me. Like I think that's a really important message. Sometimes we just get stuck on like, I'm just going through this stuff and I just don't like this. And at the end of the day, when you get through it, you're going to come out so much stronger. And then you get to share that, you know?
Beautiful. And Chloe, previous AAF CreativeZen speaker, previously on the podcast. You can find it on our archives. As some of you know, Chloe was the reason why I'm connected to Emmy. Chloe's the reason why I became a yogi. God bless her. So we're forever grateful for Chloe Ravel, aka the Gemini Rising, who's one of the partners behind CreativeZen's partner, Rising Nature Retreats, which Emmy's also been a part of on the recent retreat to Dominican Republic. And we're very excited to be going to Greece in June for the next installment. Still a few spaces left. If you'd like to find out more about a retreat, feel free to contact myself, Chloe, Rising Nature Retreats. They'd be glad to assist you. I know you have wealth of offerings throughout Broward County that are available in the community at some really interesting places. Could you tell us what are some of Yo.T Holistic Wellness's current offerings?
Yeah, so we have every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. we're over in Plantation. So I have a couple instructors there that they just we hop around the parks from Volunteer, Liberty Tree Park, Gymward Community Center, offering yoga at 9 a.m. And then once a month, we also have sound healing with Maria Ale. She's one of our Yo.T.
Completely free.
Completely free. This is free for the community.
Don't have to be a resident of Plantation. You don't have to be a resident of any community. It's a completely wide open
community. And what's beautiful is like we have families that come, we have kids that come. Sometimes we have mamas with their babies and the strollers, and it's so beautiful to witness community come together. And it's just, I mean, I started, I don't remember what year, maybe 2017, I want to say, where I started with like 16 students, and the most amount of students we've had is 75. And it's, yeah, amazing. I mean, you've been there. You saw not my last day, but the week before that. Yeah, like me just crying because it was just so awesome to witness that community grow. And now it's like, now I'm building that in my backyard, in my neighborhood, which I live in Pompano. So I have offerings in Pompano as well, over at Pier 6 Rooftop. I'm there Saturday mornings for yoga and sound healing. It's an incredible view. I mean, it's a beautiful community, has also been growing. And then I'm also regularly at the Beachcomber. So another beautiful space. I'm there Tuesday evenings for meditation and Reiki, which is energy healing. And I'm there on Monday mornings as well for Mindful Mondays Yoga Flow.
And you can find these on Eventbrite. I've recently began linking them. If you receive the Choose954 newsletter bi-weekly, our culture roundup, it's in there under local offerings at the bottom. So, and then you could also find Emmy on Instagram. What's the best page to connect with you on?
The Mindful OT. So the _mindful_OT.
I can't believe that was available, but I believe it. There's no imitators. Aside from CreativeZen, anything coming up next in the future that you might want to preview and share?
There is something that's in the works that's already happening, and I'm super excited about it. And we'll see if I share it on Friday, the 14th.
I will tell you, I've been fortunate enough to participate in some really great offerings that Emmy's made available. She really, not only does she care about what she's putting out into the community, into the universe, but also the people that she brings in truly do care between the teachers she mentioned, Mary and Jess, and even some of the sound healers that she brings in, some absolutely beautiful human beings from Triome, that do sound baths and some sound healing work. Even, the way that you curate your vendors for the markets that you integrate in some of the events. Very thoughtful, done with love, done with the right intention. Um, and it's really been amazing since we connected, I guess now in 2020, that been able to see your offerings grow from plantation initially to Pompano, to Dominican Republic, and other places in between. So we're really glad to have you share a little bit more about your story, your work, your journey, your offerings. April the 14th. The doors open at 8:30 in the morning. Talk starts at 9. You're out of there by 10. If you need something to tell your boss about why you might miss the first hour, hour and a half of work for the day, we have a long list of true um, reasons, excuses, that you're gaining insight and connection, and bringing those insights back to your workplace. And I will tell you, these talks initially served as my aha moment that led me down this path of arts, culture, community building, which is why I like to pay it back and pay it forward by continuing to host for free. And really very glad to be hosting this one in April, the month before our 5-year anniversary in May, where I'll be sharing my story for the first time. So I'm really grateful to have you join us on the podcast today, Emmy. Really grateful that you decided to make time to share with us next month and
This month.
this next week. Sorry. And one last question that we do like to end with, since this is the Choose954 podcast. Why do you choose the 954?
This is you.
Hey, good answer.
This is you, because Evan, because of the heart you put into the things. Everything that you do, like everything that you do, it's so intentional, and you bring people together. And I've been to, a couple of your talks, and it's just, I love it. Like, why not? Why not?
Amen. I appreciate that. So grateful for you. So grateful for Chloe. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We're all open books at Choose954, at Evan Snow 13. We really appreciate the support of the Alvin Sherman Library, of Nova Southeastern University, of Jim Hutchins, Chief Librarian and Head of Information Systems, the Circle of Friends nonprofit, and NSU, that a library that my business partner Andrew's a board member of. And it's really going to be cool to see it come full circle, to have you come back to your alma mater. So we look forward to having you join us. Free event, coffee, breakfast included, free guided meditation, breathwork exercise by Chloe, who we mentioned previously. And we hope you save the date for every second Friday morning of the month. We hope to continue doing this as long as we have interesting people in the community with stories to share. And we look forward to seeing you at a Yo.T Holistic Wellness offering in the future. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you. See you
Bye-bye.
Friday.